Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Reverend Tony.
Good afternoon, Rev Nick. How are you, dear? How's your week been?
Loving the day, living the dream. It's been quite hectic, been quite busy, but it is, of course, Friday afternoon. It's just gone 4 o'clock, and it is time for Spirit Line. Welcome, one and all, my lovely, lovely friends. What have you been up to, Tony?
Uh, Mother-in-law sitting.
Ah, yes,
Yep, we
mother.
got a message a couple of weeks ago saying, "Are you free like this week?" And yeah, we are. We'll take her to the caravan. She needs a break. Bless her.
Yeah.
So no, it's been lovely. We've been swimming every morning, and 32 degrees.
Oh,
That would
wow.
Yeah, that's enough to sweat your what's its off.
It's, well, I did say in the blurb we're going to be having a few moments to add to the end of year blooper reel, so we'll have that one for sure and see what else we can come up with.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Tony,
Oh,
it's always a pleasure to join you on a Friday afternoon, and I do
and
look
you.
forward to it. And
Yeah.
I know a number of people do because they were sitting online patiently waiting to join us. I know the feeling, Daniel. The heat really does get to me. So let's say hello, of course, first off the post. Pretty much the second we started connecting. Daniel, good afternoon to you. And there's that Mr. Tony Swindles there as well. Hello,
Yeah.
Reverend Tony.
And we have Dawny and Christine, and then me again.
And then
I've
you
got to say with myself
absolutely
today.
giving a promotion there that it's 20 days until we actually physically meet again
Yes.
in the
Yep.
wonderful halls of Littleport. There, of course, is Daryl. Hello to you. And Cherry Ann, I've got to tell you, everybody, be gentle with Cherry Ann because where she lives, there is currently a very loud festival going on, and it's
Oh,
very, very loud. And she needs our calm and she needs our peace. She also needs us to be loud enough to get through the music.
right, right. Okay. Oh, Nicola, hello. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at the Rainbow Project. And
Absolutely.
Lawrence
Hello,
and
Lauren.
Mommy Brown.
Hello, mother, who is not actually communicating from Littleport for once. She's gone on a day or two out with her sister, so she's
Oh,
miles away now. And we have, of course, a Facebook user there. So hello to
mm,
Facebook user, and then jumping we have the lovely Shelley. Hello, darling. Just leaving for Manchester for a Kiss concert. So should see. Oh yes, I've seen the pictures. Looks amazing. Excellent,
yeah.
excellent, excellent.
And another Facebook user. Ooh, and we have Eunice.
Hello, Eunice, and Tony's listening there as well. I'm going to turn my volume up because I realised I've got my volume up, and every time someone comments, I'm getting a blip through. So let's shut that up because I can see him on here. So Tony and the other Tony, of course, the one that I'm often inclined to call Rev Tony on a Thursday night when he's leading the healing. Bless his heart, he does give me a stern look because I've threatened him with ordination before, and he's scowled at me as they so often do. Bless him.
Yeah,
Uh,
my other half is laid behind the screen here, tired, bless him, and I keep threatening him as well with a collar, and he
to be
considered it
fair,
briefly.
I think we should do a line of two Revs collars where they're made of leather with metal studs on, but that's another story for another day. You
I'm
know?
loving that one. I'm loving that one. But no, it's yeah, and a lot. I've had a week of sat with mother-in-law while she was reading her book, and I was had my crochet hook out, and you know your mind goes into that meditative state when you're doing something like that. So a lot of churning of things, and I put them all down on my in a
Dubry.
folder called ministry and then podcast ideas,
Yes.
and now it won't read it. So my computer can see it. When I go into the USB, it says eject Western Digital, my passport. When I go into my files and folders, nada.
Yes.
So, yeah, there we are.
I've given a suggestion because I've had that similar experience. If it's different, I don't know what to do. But if it's the same,
And she's fine. She was on form, Daniel.
see everybody engaging and
It
chatting
is.
with each other. This is the best part about communities. And I was watching because frequently when I've got a couple of minutes just to mulch my head out, I look through like the reels on Instagram because they're less depressing and political than Twitter and
Mm.
TikTok, and they're quite fun. And there was this guy getting really, really excited at the fact that there were people commenting on his videos, but they were actually talking to each other. And he said it's a real community. People that have never met, don't necessarily know each other, that are talking to each other from across the world just because we're here having this conversation. And I get his drift because
Mm.
that is the best part of this technology and this way of life, that community. And of course, for everyone watching, be reminded both those that are watching who have watched before and those that are new, please be reminded that this is your afternoon. We talk about topics that are yours. We don't always get through every single one, but what we do tend to do is if there's one we think is particularly shiny, we do take it and make use of it for the podcast that we're going to be doing. If we think it deserves a bit more time, we take it and give it more time in the next episode. If it comes up late in the day, but please be reminded, everyone, this is your conversation, so lead it. Ask your questions, have your thoughts, share your thoughts, and enjoy that conversation with people from all over the world. It's so
It's
brilliant.
fabulous to see, absolutely fabulous to see people coming together and forming a community, which is what we are all about. We are all about a community. All are welcome here. So
Yes.
just bear with me. I got slightly distracted then because our um, caravan park are ringing. So we can wait a minute. I've got Facebook on my phone so I can see all of the comments and things. So,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
but no, it's euthanasia is going to be a podcast episode standalone, separate from we have a rolling 12-week idea that we've got going, and that topic, Daniel, we thought deserved
A whole episode all of its own.
all on its own as a standalone piece, which we will do for other topics if they come up here and we think that's something we really need to get our teeth into and explore and research ourselves. So we've got that background. So that's where that's going, Daniel, because it is such a beefy topic. And if I say divisive, I don't mean bad divisive. I mean it will
literally divide
people and it polarizes people, and it's something we need to really have a good look at, and
absolutely.
we want to do it justice, Daniel, because when it popped up in the comments last week, I went, oh,
We need that one, and it really was a brilliant comment. And you know what? You're absolutely right on the divisive, dividing people. And what our aim, especially with these conversations, is to make it available for all and to get people thinking about the other side of the conversation and the other side of the coin. You might not necessarily agree with it, but
no,
to actually see it from that side, and the irony, the absolute irony, that in the English language the phrase that describes that is the devil's advocate.
yeah,
I always find that funny because it's certainly the opposite as far as I'm concerned. But I saw the question come up on Facebook, and there were a lot of absolute answers. Now Tony and I have discussed it briefly, and we are both not absolute in our answers, I think is fair to say.
No, no, no.
Um, and that's why we want to give it more time and more justice of a
Yeah,
decent conversation and a decent unwrapping of the whole and both
yeah,
sides, numerous sides of the coin.
yeah, yeah. It was really interesting, actually. I mentioned this to Nick after last week's episode. We always stay back. We always stay online for a good 10 minutes to just unpick what's happened to our heads throughout the
Mm,
afternoon. And I said to Nick, I studied when I did my degree. One of the modules I took was a module called Death, Dying, and Bereavement, and this topic came up. And she asked, like, quick poll, who's for, who's against, and we put hands up. And she said, right, homework for next week so we can debate it properly. I want you to write your point of view from the other side.
yes.
And I was actually pro at that point, and I'm not going to go into the whole whys and wherefores, but she said, right, so you can go and argue against it, put all the points against it. And it was really, really fascinating to unpick it from that perspective. And I thought, I get it. I
Yeah.
understand completely why people would feel as they do about it in that negative space. So yeah, it's something I really want to do justice, and I think Nick and I are going to have to put some time in really soon to get on that one, because
Yes. I
it's
tell you
going
what, everyone at home, we want to get the podcasts done, but we do get a little bit distracted, a little bit busy, a little bit magpie like, as my reports used to say. So keep on at us, or keep specifically on at me, because I'm usually the one that's, trailing. So keep on at us and we will get on it. And I think it might be actually a good idea to do a one-off special and start with that one before we get
Yeah.
into a 12
Oh,
week program.
I absolutely think so, because I think it is a good one. Daniel says, I saw the video on your view of God, Nick. I see him it in a new light. Mind the pun.
Wow. I've got to tell everyone this one. This is, people take the mick out of me for being a sci-fi fan. People take the mick out of me for being a B5 fan, Babylon 5 fan, and quoting it in my work as a minister frequently. But in actual fact, Daniel's just proved the reason behind that, because there is a lot within that show that really does do a really great deep dive. And the fact that you see the source in a different light, it was going to go either way with yourself and myself on this one, Daniel, because, I've got what I would consider very set views on the existence of a divine being, even though my view of what it is not. But I would never put someone down for not sharing that view in any way, shape, or form. But from the things that you'd said previously, I knew that may well resonate with you on a level of and it's basically this guy in latex. If anyone knows the actor Andreas Katsulas, he played the one-armed man in The Fugitive with Harrison Ford.
Yes.
He plays a character called Jakan. Now, he's a very expressive actor, facially as well as vocally, and he actually emotes through an inch and a half of latex. He's such a great actor all of his own, and the words are great as well. Now, I shared this video with some of my circles throughout the week as well, because I tend to recycle material. God, the first recycler, and I'm only doing as the boss tells me. But basically, it was talking about the question, what is truth and what is God? And this character came out with this wonderful explanation about, if I shine a light on the wall, I become suddenly amazed and hypnotized by that light on the wall. And we perceive it as being God rather than being our search for God, and a result of the search rather than the actual thing. And if we stand in the way of the light, suddenly God looks just like us. In actual fact, the whole point of it is to realize that the point is to actually explore all of the wall in all of its beauties and all of its flaws. And then the question then came from the person who originally answered the question. But what is truth and what is God? Because they didn't get the answer. So he stands there and goes, truth is a river. And they went, and what is God? God is the mouth of the river. And he was really, really downbeat and disappointed. But there were some that got what he was trying to say. That the purpose is the journey and the process. So I kind of thought with your mindset, Daniel, that you'd probably be in
tune. He really got it. He really got
something so easy to run instead of going around the houses to get to. Absolutely. And so this is why I like using things that I like as science fiction. You know how we were talking earlier on, Tony, about have we got any ideas? And I said I'd forgotten. I've just been reminded because I actually asked the question. I asked some questions of an AI chatbot today. Being a science fiction fan, you'd think, steer clear. It always goes wrong with artificial intelligence, always. And I actually asked the AI chatbot, do you think that people are afraid of AI because it's actually humans that created it and we don't trust ourselves? And the AI actually thanked me for my kind thoughts in its favor and said that fear is a very powerful and divisive thing and that we should not allow it to control our lives. It was actually saying, thank you for considering that I'm not evil. And this is I don't think anything's evil. I think everything is a tool that can be made into something else. And certainly language and how we explain things. Because I was asking it as well about, how do I get my message across in a clearer way? Use parables and stories. And Joshua Ben Yosef. And I actually put, Joshua Ben Yosef did that. Were you around 2,000 years giving him that advice? I have not been around that long, and I have got no interest or understanding in the concept of religion. But Jesus, also known as Ben Yosef, did use parables. I was joking. I got it.
I understood. Yes.
Yeah, but it obviously didn't find my sense of humour funny. Hi, Trace. Welcome to the show, my love. Hi, darling.
Fancy somebody not finding your sense of humour funny, Nick.
I know. Terrible, isn't it? Terrible.
It's shocking.
But yeah.
Dawny said there is a very similar video, a very good video similar on social media about what you believe is what you are unsure on, and the way colour of skin is what you see, but we are all the same spirit in different skins.
Yes.
Michael calls it a meat suit. Michael calls it a meat suit that we borrow for the length of time we need it. But yeah, underneath we are all part of that divine spirit. And Nick's still one of yours now, Nick. It wants to understand itself and sends bits of itself to have existences and to try things and to fail.
Yeah.
And failure is not a bad thing if you learn from it.
Hear. Those who ignore the mistakes of the past are doomed to repeat them.
Yes, that's.
And in actual fact, I can't claim ownership of the. I can't claim ownership of the jigsaw puzzle because that was actually from Babylon 5 as well. But I always tell people where I steal these things from. But yeah, it's important to be clear and concise, but try and expand at the same time. And yeah, we're going to trip up and fall on our backside from time to time. But then that's how you learn to be more balanced, so you don't get bruises.
Exactly. And it's if people see something I'm doing, and I'm sure you're the same, Nick, and they think that's going to go tea you in the custard very quickly, and they give you constructive advice and constructive criticism on that, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
If it's helpful, if it's, well, if you tried this, or did you think about that, or did you want to think about this in that way? I love it. I love it when people say to me, um, they used to do it a lot when I was starting on platform, and it's like, oh, you should, have you tried just standing still and holding the power for a moment? You know, you've built the energy in that spot, and then you walk and you leave it behind, and then the energy's got to try and follow you. Where, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll give that a go. And next time you give that a go, and it works, and it's, you know, so helpful prompts are really, really great. And I think that's what we're basically trying to do here, isn't it, Nick?
yeah,
We're having these discussions to try and unpick ideas and see if we can help, or even ourselves, to unravel something and go, oh, Kaza's in the house.
Wee,
Whoop,
wee.
whoop, whoop.
Word up, word up.
Yeah.
Cooking
Oh,
away in the middle of the night. I'm surprised she's still awake.
oh no, making soup at
It's a
that
soup.
time.
I know, I
What's
know.
that about? I was snoring my head off at 2 a.m. Kaza was
Well,
making soup.
I have to confess, it was around about 11:30 when I got home from church last night, and I didn't want to wake anybody in the house up. And there was this really really tasty microwavable bolognese in the fridge, and I was so keen, but I didn't want to make any noise, so I had some dairy-free ice cream at about 1 in the morning,
Um,
and
I'm
I
sorry.
loved every minute of it.
I mean, I as a necessity, it's okay. Dairy-free ice cream is okay
Yeah,
because it's very unpleasant if I try and eat normal ice cream, as I'm sure
ditto.
you know. Maybe not for me all the time, but people around me certainly
Let's say,
feel you.
depending on the level of impact, it does impact other people before it impacts us, of course.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, yes. But I always sort of find it's a little disappointing sometimes. A
Yeah,
little
yeah.
disappointing. The Ben and Jerry's vegan stuff isn't too bad,
Ben and
except,
Jerry's cookie dough is good.
yeah, except I'm gluten intolerant as well.
Ah,
So the cookie dough,
Swedish glaze.
yeah,
Swedish glaze.
chocolate, the chocolate one. And I stumbled across a strawberry one. I've only ever
Oh,
found it once, and it was quite nice. Chrissy, oi oi, Tony, Nick, and everyone, how are you all? Long time no see.
I
Chrissy,
know. Yes, the Magnum vegan ones are very good. They
with
are
the
very
almondy bits on, the one with the almondy bits on. Ooh,
having
I'm,
a lemon and cucumber dash of honey detox drink is now detoxes.
mm,
How good are they? How good are they?
I,
I'm
I,
considering one.
I, I've done them. I've done them, and I think as long as I always come back to the same old, same old, same old every time I do something like that, diets and things, I always come back to it works,
It works. Yep, let's get that
but
one.
everything in moderation.
Here, here.
I
Because
go back every time.
it's fun, and the reason I zoned in on that, having talked about vegan ice cream and lactose intolerance and all that, and then detoxes. One thing that we learn in this. Oh, hello, somebody's about. The one thing that we learn in this way of life, and certainly as mediums, is what comes in is filtered and goes out. Knowledge and physically.
Mm.
So, the old story of we are what we eat, has its bearing on
Mm.
does does it have an impact? Because I was always told off, and still am occasionally, for drinking caffeine before, during, and after a demonstration of mediumship. I think, because of the amount of Pepsi drink Max I drink, I've got around about 40% Pepsi Max in my blood veins, in my veins, in my bloodstream anyway. But does the caffeine impact the mediumship? Does what we eat physically? Should we be more aware of because at the end of the day, if you think about information, which is what we deal with as mediums and philosophers, as everyone online watching is, whether you realize it or not, you all have your own philosophy. That's the whole point. Um, what goes in impacts what comes out, and what stays in, and what controls, to an extent, our behaviors, is the information coming in and how we process that. Surely it must be the same physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Does it
Mm.
matter that much?
I've I've always found, and I don't know if this is sort of on the same lines, but I think it is. If I'm feeling pretty meh and pretty rubbish and pretty naff, I go into, and I'm like, oh God, I've got that church tonight, and can't be bothered, don't want to do it, and I'm in that mindset. As soon as I get up on rostrum, oomph, it's there,
Yeah,
and spirits seem to take over, and it works and it happens. But going back to the philosophical side of it, I do think we should all be aware of what we're eating and what we're doing, because a good diet can affect how we are physically. And I found that if my diet's crap, my health is crap. The two things are intrinsically linked, which means I'm not able to do as many rostrums because I'm tired and I'm lethargic and my mental health's in a bad place, and all the rest of it. But yeah, platform user. When I work on platform, I don't eat until I'm finished. I try not to eat. I'll have, if I'm doing an evening service, I'll eat my evening meal after the service.
same here.
Because my stomach starts churning. After 10
Yes.
and a half years, my stomach still churns before I step up onto rostrum. But I find that that is good nerves for me. It's good nerves, good
Yeah.
energy. And
Yeah.
if I'm ever sat, even at Little Port, if I'm sat there and I'm not nervous and I haven't got the churning stomach, I will get up and I'll
I'd be
say,
worried.
Nick,
Yeah.
you're going to have to do the service because I got nothing. I got
Yeah.
nothing. And that will be it.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's interesting that I remember a few physical mediums were adapters of food. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. This was in the 80s, so they smoked Benson and Hedges.
Yeah, it's funny really, because there were a lot of the older mediums, and thank you, Ashley, really really good, and also thank you, Facebook user. Then I agree with Tony. I don't think the nerves should ever go. It's what keeps you in check. But the interesting thing about what Ashley has said, Reverend Ashley, of course, is that yeah, so many of the older mediums did adopt new ways of eating, and what they were doing, but would stand on the platform with a packet of Woodbines and a glass of gin or a glass of vodka. You know,
Yeah.
I know one particular medium who did like his gin and tonics frequently, to the extent that, because it was named after him, he would actually incorporate it into his work if he did a good job. He'd just say, Yeah, yes, you owe me a gin. So it would be the thing, but obviously as a society we've moved away from that kind of behavior, but
Mm.
there was still an effort, an
Yeah.
effort. I know that I eat rubbish. I don't eat as much rubbish as I used to do. My mother, if she's still watching, if her internet connection has lasted, will confirm that as a teenager, I spent most of my time eating oven chips or Rice Krispies for dinner. And when she took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, and she told the doctor, I think he should be eating more properly. It's not good for him. He said, well, he's actually eating something, so leave him alone. And that was from an actual doctor. You know,
Mm.
but I mean, since going out on my own, people have seen on my TikToks and on my Instagrams and everything. I love to cook now, and I do like using fresh ingredients. Unless I'm being lazy, in which case pre-chopped and frozen. But I like working with spices and fresh foods and all that sort of thing. And my palate has definitely changed. Um, have I, as an individual, the way I think and behave changed? Probably not.
Mm.
But would I feel better if I did now? Who knows? It may be worth a go. Um,
Well, well,
I will do the experiment and report back.
you're you're still smoke free. I noticed with the
Yes.
vape. So
March, April, May, June, July. I am now 5 months smoke free. Yes, admittedly, I've got one of these, but it's vapor rather than actual burnt leafy product.
mhm.
So it's a start, and I'm going to be 40 something at the end of October. The reason I'm saying 40 something is because I have to think about what it is now. Oh, I'll be 45, and I started smoking when I was 15. So I think to have jumped 5 months of this rather than them, you know, is progress. And
Yeah,
yes, there she goes. There she goes. He always was a pain. A whole box of Rice Krispies. Yes, indeedy.
and Kaza said the soup was delicious. You will have to post the recipe, Karen.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
because it did look really good, and I do like a soup. I tend to have it more in the later months, the autumn
yes.
and winter. I go for soups and stews and broths. But
Mm,
yeah, still a pup, still a young pup, Eddie. Yes, definitely.
yeah,
Because I've
yeah.
got about 11 years on that. Oh, Facebook users been
Wow.
vaping since November. Rob, so you should be. So
Absolutely.
you should.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Do you know what? When I actually decided that it was time, it was really, really easy. And I don't think it was. This is going to be a bit controversial, actually. This is going to be a bit controversial. And please don't think for a second that because I see the reason that I'm actually, agreeing with it. But it makes you think. One of the things that I'm absolutely in hatred of is the forceful control and fear that religion inspires. I think it's abhorrent. I think it's wrong. There should be no fear in religion at all, ever. However, I will say this, I understand how it works because I gave up smoking for Lent. And the reason I went 40 days and 40 nights was because I didn't want to let the Great Spirit down. It's a very fine line between not wanting to let someone down and being afraid. And that was a very interesting lesson for me because
Mm,
there is a difference. There is a huge difference between not wanting to let someone down when you've made a promise and being afraid of the consequences of that. Because we know life is about action and consequence, but it's a very fine line between not wanting to let someone down and being afraid of the consequences. but the intent and the reason between them are worlds apart.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would say I would look at if I'm doing something and I think I know the Great Spirit God is watching and knows what I'm doing, and I shouldn't have done it, and I know, and I'm disappointed in myself, and I'm disappointed in them. But I know, much as I would be with our son, it's come on,
He tried,
tell me
yeah,
about it. I know you did your best and it didn't work, but we now know why it didn't work. So come on. As opposed to the old style of like years ago, my dad was um his father, if my dad messed something up, would just say, get the belt.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that will be it. Uh, that's very different parenting skills. And that's
very,
what I feel. The Great Spirit, God would just be, come on. I know you
yeah,
didn't intend to, and I know you did your best, and it was a moment of weakness, and you know what you've done, and da 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 da. Let's all just regroup and start again.
yeah,
And it's done with love.
exactly,
And I absolutely agree that there is absolutely no room for fear within religion or a church. There should just be love. There should
yes,
be love, kindness, compassion. Fear has no place. And it was interesting actually talking to Michael. And I know you've had the same conversation with him about hell and the construct of hell as a this is what's going to happen to you if you don't do what we say.
yeah,
You will go there, you will be burnt forever, and it'll be very unpleasant, and you know there you are, so do what we tell you and you won't go there.
yeah,
No, no, the God I know, the God I love wouldn't do that, wouldn't create this place where if you do bad things, that's your eternal damnation, and no. But yeah, I get it, and it's a disappointing somebody. Nobody wants to disappoint anybody. Nobody wants to disappoint
no,
somebody we love, we care about.
yeah,
Um, but it shouldn't be. I'm afraid of disappointing that person because X, Y, and Z will happen. It should be
absolutely.
they inspire me. They drive me. They nurture me. I want to do my best for them.
And I want them to see me in the light of my intentions
Yeah,
rather than failings, sort of thing.
yeah, that I really, really wanted to do this. I wanted to be good and do these things because they've inspired me to do that. So I don't
Yeah,
want to fail. That's important. The other stuff's just frippery and
it
yeah,
is, and it's once again those tools that we were talking about with AI and with
yeah,
everything. A tool can, a spade can be a tool that can be used as a violent weapon or can dig someone out of a hole. You
yeah,
know, one of my favourite stories is there's a man stuck in a hole. If you got a spade with you, you can carve your set of stairs out of it. Or somebody else can be standing there with it to keep whacking you every time you try and get out of it. And
yeah,
and that is the thing about a tool. It's the intent behind it. And I think I'm the eternal optimist, and I have to in my own heart believe that every initiator of a religious practice, which is simply a coming together of a mutual philosophy, that's all it is. Everything else is just, as you said, periphery. You know, every single time a way of life that takes traction, I have to believe was set with good intentions. I really, really do have to believe it was set with good intentions. So, you know, the idea of fear coming out, I believe, will have sprung from this fear of letting someone down can be used to create and instill fear to control. And we've got to recognize as individuals with at least half a brain cell that these rules are set down by people, not the Great Spirit.
Yeah.
And that we should take ownership of them and do something about them and correct them. Another thing that I get cajoled for, but hear me out on this, is that I have a huge problem with the laws of Leviticus and Exodus. I really, really do. They are outdated and outmoded. But if you actually look at the time, the conditions, and the situation and what they were supposed to achieve, they were actually valid. You know, you've got you can't eat shellfish or pork. Well, you know, if you're in a desert and you're cooking them, you haven't got thermostats and probes, you know, pretty dangerous, gonna kill yourself if you're not careful. You know, even, you know, same-sex relationships, the numbers were very low. We were trying to increase the population. You know, personally, I wouldn't have been too keen in adding to the populace, but if that was part of, you know, keeping the dream alive, then I might have had to have dabbled. I wouldn't have liked it, and I'd have definitely had my eyes closed. But there you go. But the
Messy.
idea was to keep alive and increase the population. So they had their purpose. But in a world where we've got thermostats, where we've got thermometers, where we've got probes, where we've got 8 billion people on the planet, those rules no longer apply. You know,
No.
even to, you know, women being covered to protect them from the heat and from the sand and from being, you know, stolen and harmed. Yeah, fine. But we now have something called air conditioning, you know, and transportational vehicles. So once again, and you know, certainly that was very much of the environment. In the United Kingdom, the chances of, you know, getting sunstroke is limited to about 3 days a year. You know, so
Mm.
once again, not necessary now, but had a valid or at least reasonable
Yeah.
logic behind it of the time. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean they were right, but they were useful at the time. And this is a lot of the problem with, you know, religious ways of life. When you get stuck in that mode of that's the rules, that's what you're stuck with, it cannot change. That's when everything falls down.
Yeah.
You know, even in spiritualism, within the seven principles, one that I find really, really hard with the wording and the language that it uses. As a spiritualist, I believe we're all a little bit grey. There is the potential to do good and harm in all of us. And I don't believe anybody is naturally, inherently intended to be inclined towards evil. That is part of the condition that we exist in and part of what our existence and our experiences shapes us to be. So to use the phrase compensation and retribution for all good and evil done on earth, I struggle with, because I don't believe anybody is inherently evil. I believe people can perform evil acts, but we go down a route based on what our experiences are and the environment in which we are in, and whether that negative aspect is encouraged or tempered by experience and action. And I think to use the word evil is an extreme that it should be much more reserved, in my opinion, than it's thrown about a lot, you know, and I struggle with that.
I completely agree. I believe there are evil things done
Yes.
by people who were less than nice, but I I'm with you on that. I don't believe somebody is born evil. I mean, again, going back to my psychology background, there's nature nurture. Are we born that way, or are we nurtured into that? And I think with a lot of things, there is a mix in there. I think some people have tried to explain the Holocaust in terms of Hitler was a psychopath, a sociopath who was allowed, because of the environment he was in, to become powerful and exert that influence in that way. Now, I come from next page. We've got
Hello.
yeah, you can, yes.
Yeah, we just can't see who you are. So if you just put your name at the end of your comments, we'll be able to
that, that
see who you
that'll
are.
be fab. But I always believe that there is that mix in there, and sometimes there is that perfect storm where things are allowed to happen and escalate in a way that creates havoc. But it's the learning from that and the response to that, and the we all say it should never happen again. Anything like that should
Yeah,
never happen again. And yet, here we
it
are,
does.
2023, just saying. But yeah, Miles, as always, very spot on. All this is from free will, and it's your choice and how the environment has shaped you. Completely agree with that. It's what is part of us, because nowadays, I mean, we're not that far on from World War II and everything else that happened there, and other instances. But people are medicated. We're more aware of mental health issues. We're more aware of people, and but they slip through the nest, the net, and you get your Jeffrey Dahmers, and you get your, we can go on listing them all day.
Oh yeah.
But I still don't believe that you are born evil. I think you are born with issues, and if you have that perfect condition, it grows, it's nurtured, and away you go, and you've got all sorts of havoc being wreaked. But it's, I don't know. It, like I say, there isn't. I don't think there is an inherent evil in people, and it's also the retribution side of it. I'm not a fan of punishments. I'm
No.
not a fan of punishments at all. I think we punish ourselves for things we do. I've done some pretty naff things in my life that I've beaten myself up about in, to the nth degree. I really have. And I think if you stand before the Great Spirit, or you return to the Great Spirit and you go, I really cocked that up, big style. And I know I did, and I know, but you can see from the way I lived my life after that, I've done my best. I did my best to make up for it. But I don't think we, as ministers, especially bishops, spiritualists, have the right to impose retribution on anybody. Anybody. And if somebody's doing something, this is going back to a conversation from earlier in the week. If somebody's doing something that's really getting under your skin, the bigger thing to do is to back off, walk away, and let that person, if you've offered advice and you've offered direction and they've turned the back on it, walk away. Don't go around bleating and bitching and you just don't. The big thing to do is to I've tried my best. We've all tried our best. But it's got to come to it, and that is a hard thing to do. That really is a hard thing to do. But it's sometimes got to be done.
Indeed.
Got to be done.
It really is.
Okay. Okay. I saw somebody's comment then, and I wanted to go back to it. I think you might have started it actually. Yeah, you have.
Eddie's. Yeah.
Eddie's.
That's that it seems like a simple comment, but actually there's a lot of depth to that. There when you know
It is, yeah.
on first looking it seems fairly straightforward, but I think this is the problem that a lot of religious ways of life, and to an extent spiritualism's getting there, we try to simplify things that can't actually be simplified. We try to have black and white answers, and as you quite eloquently put a little while ago when talking about the good and evil, compensation, retribution, which I absolutely agree on, by the way, you know, there there are shades of grey between each polar opposite. And so, there'd be numerous arguments as to whether it's spiritual or not. For example, I'm sitting here looking at a picture of a boxer that is a relative of mine. He's in spirit now. He took up boxing because it helped him channel his emotional anger and frustration in a more controlled environment where there was protections in place, and it gave him focus and it gave him calm and it helped him in his daily life. And whilst yes, it is a sport that is engaged in physical violence and physical contact with each other, it helped him emotionally and spiritually to become, in his view, a better person. And the argument could also be said that both of the people that are getting into the ring have made the choice to do that and are aware of what it is that they're doing. Um, Depending on the reason, and this is the thing, and this is where the shades of grey sit for me. It depends why you enjoy it. If you enjoy it because you like seeing blood spraying around from two people kicking the you know what's out of each other, then maybe you need to consider the reasons. But if you enjoy it because you see a competition and two people who have made that choice to do that, that would be on a different part of the individual's opinion, I think. Your thoughts, Tony?
I'm with you on that. If people are grown adults and they have made the choice to get in the ring and do that, that's up to them. I don't enjoy watching it. I must be honest, it's not for me. My dad did it when he was in the army. It was a way for him to become disciplined and to refocus his head. That's fine. Absolutely fine. Don't mind that at all. If it's consented and it's informed, and like you say, the reasons you're watching it, if you like to see that violence between people, maybe have a rethink. However, if you enjoy the competition, the battle, the who's better than who, that all shenanigans, that's fine. If you're, I'm going to retract a little bit there, Nick. Something's just popped into my head. If you enjoy watching two people beating each other up, okay, they've agreed to that, they've contracted to that, they've signed that. Okay, fox hunting, hare coursing, that type of thing, there's no consent.
No, there
Absolutely
is.
no consent. That animal is chased down, ripped apart, no consent. Two grown men get into a ring, want to beat the out of each other, and you want to watch it, you go for it. If it's controlled, there are medics there, it's legal, it's contracted, it's above board, absolutely fine. If it's in a garage or warehouse and it's underground and that's dangerous. But if you're watching professionals do what they do, go for it. If you get a thrill out of it, slightly concerning, but you live with it. As we've said, you stand before the big guy at the end of your life, and you deal with it. Absolutely fine. But I think there are, again, like you say, Nick, there are shades of grey. And as a minister and a spiritualist, I can see that, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that. And you do what your conscience dictates. It gets me with our way of life. And in me, I struggle with that myself. I eat meat. I struggle with it. That's my struggle. So yeah, I used to play fighting games for the art and the movement, but I don't like it anymore. Bliss,
yeah,
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on
yeah,
that. I I can appreciate that two fellas getting into a ring want to know that they are the better man. That's up to them. That I get that, but don't like it. But I get it.
yeah,
But personal choice, like we say,
yeah.
personal responsibility. We take responsibility for our actions. Um,
I just
and
said
yeah,
Miles's comment is similar to rugby
yeah,
players that they enjoy the rugby to channel their aggression. I never. I used to play. Believe it or not, I used to play rugby. I loved it. Although to be fair, it was not for channeling the aggression. It was being second hooker. Sorry, being left prop or right hooker. And the position I was in during the game, but that's beside the point. We all have our own reasons, and the spectrum of reasons are there. I certainly enjoyed that side of it. But yeah, it is about reason. I mean, don't get me wrong. I never went to watch Gary box. The point that it helped him emotionally and improve his emotions with other people in his daily life, I absolutely lauded it up and applauded it. Um, but when you think about someone who's training as sorry mother, just got in trouble.
hmm
But for the most part, when someone's training as a boxer, they're not actually fighting it. The discipline part is the major part rather than the actual fight. But I still personally wouldn't go and watch it, and I don't enjoy watching people fight.
no,
You know,
no,
but Bliss's point about fighting for the art of movement. If you think about it, Tai Chi, which is a symbol of peaceful channeling and focus, now was a martial art in its
it
creation.
wasn't. Yeah, I was going to say it was for a very different
And
purpose,
yet
wasn't it?
everyone sits there saying, "Oh, I'm Tai Chiing," and I can feel the energy. It was never about it. It was a means of fighting. It was
it,
a
it
means of
it was
fighting,
a martial art.
and so it has evolved. It's maintained its reason, the focus, the control, the channeling, and everything, but without the physical contact.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, one could easily say that they've seen plenty of fights on an opera stage or on a ballet stage, the way the movements go around. But once again, it is about the flow, the ebb and
Choreography.
flow, and the choreography of it, and the
Yeah.
art of it. Again, which I get, but for me, you know, I was on the receiving end of a lot of physical aggression that was inspired by fighting games, uh, by the art of physical contact sports, and I certainly wasn't a mutually contractual um, participant,
No.
and I still have the scars to prove it. So once again, it's how it all fits on that different level of activity, and I think it's I'm really pleased that there are different views and different ways of seeing the viewpoint, because if it was this right, this wrong, bleh, there would be no debate. It certainly wouldn't be a debate, so we couldn't continue the debate on Facebook page. There would be no debate as in understanding each other's views and opinions. So I think difference of opinion are important. It's how we,
Mm.
manage that particular contest.
Yeah.
That no blood is drawn in a debate. And that's the progress of human understanding. like I said, I can see the reasons and the positives behind boxing. Personally, it's not for me. I do enjoy watching a bit of rugby because it's less combative, and you know the shorts are a little bit shorter. Yeah,
Yeah,
but you know, as with everything else, everyone has their own reasons, and so long as you can, you know, be comfortable with those reasons and understand those reasons, I think that we are human beings, and to err is human, to forgive divine. But the
divine.
first person,
Yes,
of course, is yourself. And yeah, you know, and this is once again, boxing has nothing to do with art, just violence. You know, so that is a view that is sitting on that spectrum of opinion that some may disagree with. I tend to agree with it more because for me, that the actual match of it happening is just violence. But others would say, well, you know, look at the skill and look at the dexterity and look at the movement and look at the flow. And I don't see that bit. I just see blood flying everywhere.
same here. Blood and snots. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I get out of it. However, like I say, there's an off button on my TV, and there are hundreds of different channels.
Here, here.
So I choose not to watch it. Luckily, a lot of them are now pay per view. So,
Yes.
uh, but there's a
Indeed.
lot. There's a lot.
Yes.
It is, and we are allowed them. And I will fight to the death to allow you to have your freedom of speech. I will. There are consequences to them sometimes, but you
Yes.
are allowed them, and I will fight to allow you to have them. Going back to the food question, just to revisit
Yes, I did
possibly
star it.
one,
Yes.
so it stayed on my screen. Um,
Eunice, going back to the food question, should you eat prior to a demonstration? Do you feel we are any different after lunch whilst on a workshop day? Secondly, if you get a rescue dog which has problems with love and nurture, you very often end up with a beautifully natured animal. Here,
I
here.
I completely agree, and if I can just pick up on that second point while it's in my head, otherwise I'll forget. We had a rescue dog, Tia, and she was horrendous for years. She was awful. She wouldn't be in the same room as us. She was very standoffish, didn't want to be touched, didn't want to be loved, didn't understand what you're trying to do to her. Um, but with patience and love and not giving up on her, which I think is an important thing, we ended up with this beautiful dog. For the last few years of her life, she was absolutely amazing, the most wonderful animal, best friend we could have asked for. So, yeah, just don't give up. Don't give up
Yeah,
is the main one. We've had 2-on-1 dog, but that was me. That wasn't him. He was this beautiful, cute brindle puppy, and he ended up being the size of a beast. And with my back and the way I am, I just couldn't handle him.
yeah,
He took off once after another dog, and I couldn't do anything with him. So we had to ring the rescue place and just say, "Look, really sorry, but it's not working. We tried, but it's
yeah.
me that let him down, not him that let us down." Um, and I've done a few workshop days myself, and I always feel a bit sluggish in the afternoon sessions. So when I'm doing anything now, if I'm organising anything, I will always put the less intense stuff at the end of the day rather than at the beginning, because it's just how I feel personally. Other people are like, "Oh, couldn't we have done that first?" I'm like, well, we could
Mm,
have, but I wouldn't have done very well through it, and I probably wouldn't have taught it very well. So it's
yeah,
no easy stuff in the afternoon, intense stuff in the
yeah.
morning. Get it out of the way before lunch.
And it
Um,
is it is once again about how you work as an individual, isn't it? You know, I mean,
mm,
Eunice is absolutely right. We have a workshop between 11 and 4. And we stop for lunch about 1 o'clock, and it's usually some sort of pick what you want buffet. Well, this Sunday, everyone's having hot dogs, and I have got some veggie hot dogs on order too, with fried onions, of course. I'd be in trouble if I didn't. And it's absolutely, people have not noticed or mentioned a struggle. What they haven't perhaps noticed is that I tend to pick a little bit rather than eat very much, especially if, like I sometimes do, double book and I've got a demo later on in the day. I won't have, as much as I would do if I wasn't working. But again, that's my choice and the way my work has developed. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the same for everyone. And that's again about, does the same foothold apply to everyone? Going back to Ashley's comment about, mediums that were, turning to veganism, that were physical mediums, and yet they were still puffing on the 20 B&H throughout the day. Again, it's absolutely the same thing, I think, really. That we tend to look at everything as black and white and forget the shades in the middle. And I think they are what make us unique and individual and different. And the minute we stop considering them, I think we're in trouble.
And I think it comes back to something we've both said, and I've noticed we've both said it. It's just how we work. We all work differently.
Yeah.
And you find your way of working, and it's there's nobody can tell you that's right or wrong. If that's how you work, if you can work with a full stomach, you go for it. It's just, I know I'm going to get that churny, nervous stomach, and it ain't going to be pretty if I've just eaten a Sunday roast before. But we're doing Scunthorpe with Jean on Saturday evening, I think it is. It's either Saturday or Sunday evening. And my intention is that we'll pick Jean up and we'll go for a bite to eat, and then we'll head over to Scunthorpe, spend a couple of hours in Scunthorpe, go do the den.
Yeah.
But, so that's just how we work. Julie's put a couple of comments up, actually. My dad was a lot of young day. Absolutely. It's what works for you. Like Nick and I have both said, boxing in for us, but power to your elbow.
And the fact is, he will have had to have been very disciplined. He will have had to have been very focused. He will have had to have been aware of mind versus body and very physically fit. All of those things tie in with what people say about being a medium and being a spiritual person, is that focus. And so he will have definitely taken that from that, just like someone very close to me did. Someone just said, I prefer wrestling, or I like wrestling better. I think for me, once again, it's to do with the uniforms, but
and me. Yeah.
And in actual fact, another comment I flagged from Julie as well.
Yes. Yeah.
I had my naming service with my granddaughter. I made mine a public dedication that I'm a spiritualist. I looked at the 7 principles and rewrote them to my understanding, and I took out completely the compensation and retribution one. Bravo. We actually did that as an alliance. We took the 7 principles and we rewrote them in more modern language. And we also recognized, which is something that still is not particularly popular as a view, that the 7 principles are in fact only a summary, not the rules. They are a summary of 20 other rules that were given by Spirit to Emma Hardinge Britton, not those 7. The 10 spiritual commandments and the 10 laws of right, which were once again very archaic, so we rewrote them in modern language to make them easier to follow. I even went one step further, didn't I, and highlighted the keywords in capitals, so it was just a list of words with explanations. But once again, one of those, take on board whichever tenets and rules resonate with your heart, and anything else, shut them out and discard them and do not think of them. And you've done exactly that. which is exactly what the purpose of what we did as an alliance right at our founding
Yeah,
was, to do the same.
exactly. And it you find what resonates with you, and and I mention it quite a lot. The the twins were yeah, it was the language of the time, and it's what made sense at the time. And the twins, my friend's twin boys, one of them said to me, "But all of that, isn't it just stop being a Richard to each other and be kind?" The whole Bible summed up is stop being a Richard, shortened, and be kind and nice to each other. And I said, bravo, you know,
Yes.
couldn't have said it
And
better. Just be nice.
I know it's back to front and everything, but I've just
No, it's
been.
right on the screens, Nick. It's right on the
Oh, is it?
screen.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Just be kind.
Yeah, don't be a
Just be
rooster. Yes, don't
kind.
be a rooster. That's it. And I mean, yeah, summed up, that's all we want. Just be nice
Yeah.
to each other, be kind, be thoughtful, be respectful. We'll all rub along nicely, and yeah, we'll get, you know, um, we'll get along well. And at the end of our lives, hopefully, people will have lots of nice things to say.
I'll message you after, Shelley.
What is Richard shortened to?
As a name.
Yeah, what is Richard shortened to? Counts me out. No, if you're happy being a
No.
misery guts, be a misery guts, Eddie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what? Absolutely. And you know what, Eddie? Going back to she was joking. Sorry, Shelley. I didn't quite catch on there. Going back to what
Misery guts.
you said, Tony, earlier on about nicking one of my usuals. It's getting naughty in the comments now. Love it. Well done. Carry on, Pete.
Sorry.
You know, about us all being the jigsaw puzzle of the great divine universe and our interactions. That is a, you know, if you think about it, as an entity of some kind of substance or emotional train of thought that the Great Spirit is, you know, looking down on all of the stuff that we do to each other, you'd be a bit grumpy and a bit mardy and a bit ambivalent. Looking at the way everyone mucks about and has fun, you'd look down and have a giggle. You know, so there are so many aspects, and we're all part of that process of understanding it. And so I don't think that you're a misery guts in any way, shape, or form, because you've got that sense of humour there to joke about it to start with. But your aspect would be very much focused on that emotional part of who and what spirit is trying to understand itself. So everyone's viewpoint is part of the universe trying to figure it out. And there's an old saying that I think is really, really important. You know, our thoughts always matter. You know, they form the universe. So our thoughts always matter, and we are equally a part of that. And I think it's sometimes something that we forget, that we need to remember that we are part of the universe trying to figure itself out. But there you go.
Yes, I get that completely. Absolutely get that completely. And I think it's very important that we all remember that we do have an impact. Sometimes we don't see it, but we do, and our actions and thoughts and deeds have an impact on people. And just something that's resonating with me while I'm talking about that is mental health, and mine's been pretty meh recently. And just a smile or a nod or a wink or something can make a difference to how you feel
Yes.
in that day. Especially if I'm out and I'm thinking, I just want to go get what I need and go home because I don't want to talk to people, I don't want to do anything. And then somebody smiles at you and you go, oh, actually, that's really cheered me up. And it's yeah, it just makes a difference. So just think about it, because
Yeah.
now even if I'm feeling a bit meh, I try and have a smile on my face because you never know how other people are. Hi, Jason. Like
Oi,
your new,
oi.
by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a vest I
Absolutely.
see before me?
It's neonness
Yes,
shining in the sky.
shining brightly. Um,
That's Shakespeare, isn't it?
I think so. Yes.
It's a paraphrase of Shakespeare, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got because we are, of course, coming to the end now. Time has
Yes.
flown
So let's.
again. I once had a conversation about a particularly shaped vases on the SPTV chat. Nobody can look at Tarzan the same way now.
I
Um,
missed that one.
I missed that one too. So you
I
might, yes, I've just seen Jason's comment. Um,
yeah.
So yeah, you'll have to expand that one. Is this a dagger I see before me? Its hilt toward my hand. I believe that
Yes.
Macbeth. I believe that was Macbeth. And good
I
afternoon to
think
Margaret. We're going to be going soon. Sorry, but you can watch on catch up.
no.
Um,
LMAO.
so
I've
yeah, I
spelled
mean,
LMAO there. Yeah.
I think we need to be aware of the spectrum of opinion, and just be a little bit more, aware of it, perhaps. Interestingly enough, I know Jason's just arrived and said good afternoon. I was reading something that he said earlier in the week. It was either this week or last week. I'm losing track of time now. About opinions. And I think, we do get particularly set in our ways, but if we just become aware that there is a different level of
Hmm?
thought and view and understanding between those points. And in actual fact, in Circle, I was talking about if you think of opinions as pendulums, some go to one extreme, some go to other, but the default state is somewhere in the middle because it's easier to hit it. And, you know, um,
Sorry, I've just seen Shelley's comment there. You started the show in Gloucester and now we're in Dudley.
oh, now we are traveling. We are traveling.
Literally.
Bless you.
But yeah,
Bless you.
you are absolutely right, Nick, that there is that default, but it's so easy, isn't it? If you hear an opinion that's so opposite to yours, to get defensive. I've done it before
Yeah.
Michael behind this banner shouts up. I know I've done it. Whoa, hang on a minute. Whoa, hang on a minute. I've heard myself
Yeah.
saying it and I know I do it. I do try not to. And I think that's the important thing. I try
Yeah.
not to. But sometimes when it is something I am quite passionate about, then I know I need to, I know that I'm going to do it. I know I am. But I think it's important if we all just keep that in the back of our minds that it is our default setting is to go, whoa, hang on.
Yeah.
No, I don't agree with that. But let's just think about that other perspective and try and get behind that and why do other people think differently
Yes.
about something we feel strongly about. And if we do, then we have to, like you said, sometimes try to come to a compromise in the middle. Or if not, like I said earlier, it's time to go,
Yes.
I know, but I can't bring myself to come round to that way of thinking. There's no way we're going to compromise. So either we agree to disagree or it's time to step back and,
Yeah.
and take a different view of it, which is a fair thing to do, I think,
Yeah.
to say we're never going to find common ground on this. So we're going to have to part company on that or not discuss it because I know it's going to bring out the worst in us.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely. And
it's nice that
um,
we've kept Shelley company from Gloucester to Dudley.
I
Good lord.
know, I know. It's wonderful how people are engaging and taking part, either listening as they're traveling or sneaking out for a crafty break at lunch or or
Mm.
as some people have mentioned in the past, watching us on the telly. That's weird. I still can't get over that one, but that's technology for you. But yeah, I think for me that finding balance can
Yeah,
sometimes
absolutely.
be argued as there will be those that view that even finding that middle ground and that balance is surrendering or giving up. I personally see the reason behind that train of thought, but as someone who believes that nobody is right all the time, one of the conversations that I pose in some of the conversations that I have with circles and workshops is, you know, about democracy. We laud democracy as this wonderful concept, and the alternative, really does make it a wonderful concept. Christine's
Mm.
watching over cooking dinner. I quite often do that. But yeah, we laud democracy as this wonderful concept, when in actual fact, what we're doing is, and certainly on the UK basis, every 4 years we are surrendering our free will to have our lives led by a small group of people. And every 4 years we all throw our lots in a hat. And if 52% of people believe this is the direction we're going, that's the direction we go. So for the next 4 years, 48% of the population will not or are not feeling represented. And so, whilst the alternative of democracy is horrendous, it's still not perfect. And I think if we were to try
Yeah.
and achieve perfection as an attainable thing, don't mean to say that we shouldn't strive for it. I agree we should strive, but to
Abs-
assume that we are going to attain it absolutely is another extreme.
yeah. I mean,
And
yeah,
just try our best is all we can ask for.
just look at the, and I know, and I'm not voicing my opinion either way on this, but look at the Brexit vote. It was literally 49.51%.
Yeah,
So nearly 50% of the population didn't get what they wanted.
yeah,
You know, whatever your view on that is, that's pretty startling when you think we are a
yeah,
democracy. So nearly 50% of people didn't get what we wanted, or they wanted, or whoever wanted. So it's we're never going to get perfection. We've just got to
yeah.
make the best of what we've got.
Here, here.
And yeah, I'm going to Christine's house as well.
Yes. So for those that are not on YouTube, lots of YouTube comments today, which is brilliant. I love it. Christine's beef burgers in gravy, mash and mixed veg. So Eddie is off to Christine's house. I will say, of course, Christine, you might need to keep it on the hot plate for a while because Eddie's got a pretty fair distance to come. In actual fact, a completely different time zone. I would imagine it's still quite early for you, isn't it, Eddie? If I'm getting the timings right. I believe Eddie is somewhere out. I believe you're in Pacific time, are you not, Eddie? Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's lovely to see a mix of Facebook and YouTube. YouTube's getting more and more
Yeah,
prevalent these days, which is wonderful.
I think because you can put it in breakfast in Liverpool. Yeah, I think it's because you can put it on the TV.
Yes, yeah,
YouTube tends
and
to
it
be on
makes life
TV where
easier.
Facebook isn't. But no, again, it's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And
I do have to apologise. I got that wrong. I thought you were in America, Eddie. I do apologise. Um,
I thought Eddie was in America.
I think it's because we met through Debbie. So this
Ah,
is the wonderful thing about the internet. Eddie came to this channel because of me being on with Debbie, but he watched Debbie and she was in America, and that and yeah, assumption makes an ass of us all, as my friend Wendy used to say.
yeah, makes
Still
an ass
does,
of
but
you
not
and
to me.
me. Yeah,
Um, But yeah, so Liverpool's not that far away
No.
on the grand scheme of things. So you never know, Christine, you might get a visit. So stick some extra burgers in, love. In actual fact, I might have a couple too. Uh,
Yeah.
no, we're being good tonight. We're having salad.
Oh,
We're
salad.
having
We
salad.
we bought some sausages from a well-known German supermarket, um, and we've just realised that they're used by today. So we're having bangers and mash, I think, for tea.
Yes. Well,
But,
we're having a salad with quickie.
oh, with quickie.
With quickie.
I love a quickie.
A quickie salad. Uh,
Yeah. Is it
and if
cheese?
anybody doesn't know what I'm on about, I mean quiche.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it cheese quickie?
Actually, it's Lorraine. It's a
Ah,
Lorraine quickie or
it's a
quickie
Lorraine
Lorraine.
quickie.
Um, wow. I am in my inquiring mode right now when I used to be dogmatic about my path. Do you know what? No, I get you, mate. I really, really do. I have been there. Even though I was a spiritualist, and I think Tony will probably back me up on this, I used to be extremely set in my ways. I think that would be a fair assessment. I don't
Mm.
think I was, extreme in my staunchness. I was very defensive, but I was very set in my ways. And over the last couple of years, because of inquiry, I've evolved as an individual and a human being. I certainly don't take things as seriously as I used to. I'm a lot more laid back than I used to be. No comments, please. Um, there's one for the blooper reel.
Yeah.
I was talking about laziness, not anything else. Seriously. Do you know what? I don't care about typos because I know what you meant, mate. So I used to be quite dogmatic, I would say, in my views, but by actually engaging with people and talking to people and actually listening as well as hearing, I changed and evolved my mindset, and that's why I'm very much focused on the light dark shades in the middle message, if you want. Last year my catchphrase and my buzzword was just be kind. This year it's the shades of the spectrum.
Oh, excuse me.
Because Bemet, thank you for those of a Jewish tradition. Bemet again. Um, for one of my favorites, we really got the sneezing wrong in this country. We're saying, God bless you, you're about to die because of the plague. Whereas when it comes to the Jewish tradition of saying a mess or Bemet, depending on which language you use, it means God's agreeing with you. So yeah, I mean, I used to be really, really staunch and hardline. I'm not anymore. I don't feel, or at
Yeah.
least I'm not as bad as I was. And I think so long as I can keep progressing on that, I will be comfortable. Julie says, "Great show. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you to all of you for being a part of it."
Absolutely.
Um,
Facebook and YouTube, you've done us proud this week.
Indeed, indeed, and it's been a really engaging conversation, and
Yep.
it's peaked and troughed in terms of seriousness and fun.
As it
It's
should.
peaked and troughed in serious subjects and a bit of the giggle too, which is what it should be about. Again, that swinging pendulum.
Yeah.
The pendulum swingeth in the windeth.
It does. And yes, you should wear something more supportive if that happens, Nick.
Yes, I was actually going to say a bit like me in my teenage years, but that's.
But hey, your mother doesn't need to hear about all of that. But
No, no.
but no, it has been wonderful. And who knows, by the end of next week, there may be some podcast news. We hope.
Well, we have been kind of working out between us in the not so recent past.
Yes. Oh,
Oh, bless you.
bless
You
you,
know,
Eunice. Thank you.
I love you both, and I'm not an easy person to please. No, I'm going to disagree with you there, Eunice. It's not that you're not an easy person to please. It's just that you have courage of your convictions, and
Yeah,
I love that about you, Eunice. You know,
yeah.
I really, really do. But to know that you're happy, you know, it means I'm not going to get a slap around the ear on Sunday when we meet for hot dogs, unless I forget the onions, in which case I really will get a slap around the ear.
Ah, hot dogs then. Is it red sauce, brown sauce, or mustard, or a combination thereof?
Well, I'm going to make sure that there's one of each.
Ah, you
So
see,
if people,
I'm a red sauce and mustard together.
I've never tried it, but I like a little bit of mustard now and again.
The
But
Swedish furniture store converted me because, yeah, somebody was doing it in
yes,
front of me, and I thought I'm going to have a go at that. And theirs is like the American type mustard,
yes,
and it's
yeah.
very good with some red sauce on.
Ah. See, I used to like it when they'd shove a oh
Oh,
that's oh feeling the can you feel the love tonight. I used to like those machines where they'd shove a crusty roll on this hot tube, and it would kind of quickly toast the inside, and then they just shove the sausage in after squirting the sauce down. Dad used to take me
mm,
for that every now and again.
yes,
Um,
yes. Michael knows what they're called. He was on that one the other day because somebody was doing them at a Pride event or something we were at.
oh
I was like,
wow, oh
oh
wow.
my god! And they were doing those. Sorry, I know we're waffling again. Put a potato on a thing and spiralize it, and then dip it in a fryer.
Oh yes. Oh, put some cheese and melt it. Oh,
Oh
mm.
yeah, the mwah.
Bit of paprika, bit of mayonnaise. I'm
Yeah. I was
yours.
gonna say paprika, mayonnaise, the cheese. If I'm feeling very sort of dangerous and let's let the lactose intolerance go wherever it needs to go.
Yeah.
Toasted
Now I have to
venison or
admit, I never used to toast my buns, but that is something that Nigel got me into, toasted buns. Um,
mm. Yeah, me too, Shelley. I'm gonna have to go and get some food.
yes, and I'm gonna have to go and slice my quickie up. Um,
Yeah,
quick preparation tonight
that's
with the heat. But it has been an absolute pleasure to share our afternoon with you all. Thank you all so much for your questions, your thoughts, your engagement, and that sense of community and conversation where we're not always involved. It is
another one for the blooper reel.
another one. I realised
Nigel
as soon
into
as I
toasted
spoke,
buns.
I just tried to kind of skate over it, and I thought, no, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. Yeah, but oh dear, I'm
Me too.
terrible.
I thought I'm letting
Um,
that go. I'm letting that go. I'm letting that go. No, Eddie brought my attention to it.
Yes. So I tell you what, I think we're going to need a double episode for the blooper reel.
Oh
Um,
wow! Yeah, yeah, yeah. Christmas special.
a nice afternoon to lie outside and toast your bums. And court. Yeah, well, it's
We
usually
weren't.
rolling. It's usually rolling on the hot plate that toasts your buns, not the floor. But that's another story.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
thank you for sharing your afternoon with us, of course, Tony, as well. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, it's never
Cherry,
a chore.
I hope your eardrums haven't ruptured yet. My thoughts are with you at this time of great suffering with a big old festival going on in your village. Um, bless your heart. I'll
Mm.
tell you what, turn the volume right up, turn your volume right up, put your speaker out the window. Shh! It
Yeah.
might work, it might not.
Shh. Yeah. Be quiet.
He's not going to let me live that one down either.
No, no. Oh, Linda, it could. How could it ever be anything other when we get together?
I know.
God help us in 20 days.
I know that the
Literally,
physical
God help us in 20
language,
days.
Yeah, absolutely. 30,000 people have descended on Cherry's village.
Oh, wow.
Mini Glastonbury, 30,000 people.
Oh, wow.
Do you know what I'd have done, Cherry? I'd have stood at the edge of the village and charged them all £1 to pass.
Perfect.
Down
Perfect.
payment on a church, that is. Oh, and the music's just a thud as well. Oh,
Oh,
you know,
no.
too much to ask for a bit of Brahms and Liszt.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe later.
Absolutely, indeed. Well, my friends, it's time for us to say goodnight, for every road must end.
Yes.
But thank you all for joining. My teeth are going again. Thank you all for joining us. It's always a pleasure. And don't forget that the debate continues on our Facebook page, which is, of course, facebook.com/groups/2revs, where you can continue to chat and give us suggestions when it comes to this show, the podcasts, colours for t-shirts, which we haven't given a bit of a plug for this week.
No.
But if you think I'm not going to, you got another thing coming. If you want one of the t-shirts, follow the that's streaming across the bottom of the screen now. And we, of course, will be back same time, same place next week. There's the details on the. See, I'm getting ahead of myself now. There's the details on the Facebook group. I do get organised sometimes.
Where's Nick? Where's Nick? Bring Nick
So
back.
I know, scary, innit? But
Yeah.
thank you all for a wonderful afternoon. God bless you all, and it's good night from him.
And it's good night from him. Good night. Him, even. Good night.
God bless, good night. And I'm sure I will find the video in a second. There we go. Bye.
Bye.